New York's Attorney General stepping aside from an investigation into the recent death of an inmate at an upstate correctional facility. Hear from a legal expert on the next steps in the case. Hello, welcome to Empire State Weekly. I'm John Gray.
And I'm Jamie DeLine. New details into the investigation in the death of an incarcerated man at Marcy Correctional Facility in Oneida County. The
Attorney General, Letitia James, says her office will recuse itself from this investigation. Now, recently released body cam video from the December incident shows corrections officers beating Robert Brooks while he was handcuffed. He was pronounced dead a short time later. Brooks' official cause of death is still being determined, but court documents cite hemorrhaging throughout the body. So far, there have been no criminal charges filed.
The AG says the decision to step back is to avoid the possibility or appearance of a conflict because her office is currently representing 4 of the accused correction officers in other legal matters.
Even the possibility or mere appearance of a conflict could tie up a potential prosecution in lengthy legal challenges, or get a potential prosecution outright dismissed. And I will not allow justice to be delayed or denied because of a conflict.
The AG has appointed Onondaga County District Attorney William Fitzpatrick as the special prosecutor moving forward. Joining us now to talk more about the next steps in this whole process surrounding the death of Robert Brooks, Andrew Safranco, attorney at LaMarche and LaFranco Law Firm. Andrew, thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Full disclosure, without getting into the details of your case, because it's way too early for any of that, you are representing one of the corrections officers?
Yes, I have been retained by one of the corrections officers that's involved in the incident.
Let's talk with the broadest the questions at first. Obviously, the video comes out, it looks bad. Where does the process go from here? What happens now?
So right now, it's kind of a bit of a wait and see. We're still waiting to see ultimately which entities, governmental entities, are going to take on the case, whether it's going to be on the federal side, whether on the state side. We just learned yesterday that the Attorney General's office has recused herself and hired a special prosecutor from the Onondaga County District Attorney's office. So there's still a lot of ways this could go. It could go federal, it could go state through the special prosecutor, or it could go state through the Oneida County District Attorney's office.
And there's multiple investigations into this, right? I mean, I've heard the FBI is investigating. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure, yes. So the FBI is investigating for violations of constitutional rights, which can be both civil and criminal. The State Attorney General's office is investigating this criminally on behalf of their Office of Special Investigations, which is involved when law enforcement is involved where a death occurred with or without a weapon. And then you have just the normal general criminal process being conducted by the District Attorney's office in Oneida County.
Is it open for a negotiation when you're a lawyer or something like this, where you could say, look, if you're representing all of the guards in this case, or corrections officers, where you say, you know, what if there was a resignation of position and we basically giving up your career, does that satisfy the outrage, or does that not matter? And if they're going to bring criminal charges, they bring criminal charges.
I think there's part of both. I mean, there may be some negotiations behind the scenes to potentially avoid criminal prosecutions or to lessen criminal liability. But in a case like this that has garnered national news, I think the governmental agencies are going to determine what they want to do, and that's going to take the course. And it's really just, we're really premature now. We have the videos, we've seen the videos, but we haven't seen what the medical examiner has concluded is the cause of death. There's been a few different causes that have been out there, and then ultimately you get into legal wranglings with respect to these videos. Will they be admissible in court? Will they not be admissible in court? In those types of situations.
And this could be a long time, right, before there's a determination as to the conclusion of the case?
It could be. I mean, on a case where they're investigating a murder, there's no statute of limitations periods. If, on manslaughters and criminally negligent homicides, then, there's statute of limitations on those. But they're not going to rush here because there's no need to, and because of the nature of the case. They're going to want to try to dot their I's and cross their T's, and then they have to provide us with all the discovery that they have, all the interviews that they've conducted, all the reports they have, and give us an opportunity to do our own investigation.
Maybe I'm betraying my age, but I feel like when I was closer to Jamie's age, cases like this, videotapes and things, that would come out at trial. Now this stuff gets released before we've even come close to charges being filed or a jury being seated. And, you know, if they determine, like, well, maybe that tape isn't admissible, you can't unring that bell. This stuff's all over social media. It's everywhere.
Yeah, that's definitely a hard part of what goes on today, that everything's on social media, everything's shown. So certainly picking a fair and impartial jury in this type of a case is going to be difficult. Someone that saw the video is going to be hard. Finding people that haven't seen the video, will ultimately be hard and certainly complicates, the case.
What would you like New Yorkers to know about the whole legal process behind this?
I think it's very easy to rush to judgment, and while the video in itself shows some things that are very disturbing, I think we need to wait and see and get the whole picture as to what happened, why what was happening, and ultimately I think we really need to see what the medical examiners and what the medical evidence is going to be here. I mean, a tragedy nonetheless, but certainly we just have to wait and see as to how this plays out.
I would think too, Andrew, they would do almost like a forensic look at the video itself, frame by frame, because you got multiple people. Maybe one person did more than another person. Where if you try them as one group, like they all murdered this man, if that's the position you're taking as a prosecutor, well, did they or didn't they? And was one person a little more culpable than somebody else?
I think that's definitely going to be part of it, and part of, unfortunately, and in defense of this, maybe pointing the finger at others that were involved, in the room. One did more than another is possible. But again, I think we're just jumping until we see what the medical evidence and what the medical cause of death was. We really can't get into how we're ultimately going to try and defend the case.
Do you have like a rough timeline as to when the medical examiner's report will be released?
We have no idea. Just waiting on, on the Attorney General or the FBI and those guys to release that, but they won't release that and don't have to release it to us until after there are charges pending. So we don't know if they'll go on like they've been doing and release it, to the public first, or they're going to wait and do it in the normal course of discovery in a criminal case.
It doesn't help either that we watch too much Law and Order, right? And CSI, and where the crime happens at 2 minutes after the hour, they make an arrest by quarter after. By the bottom of the hour, we're in court, yelling at the judge. In the real world, doesn't work that way.
Exactly. This is going to take some time, and with the nature of it, and with everybody's eyes on the case, I expect that it'll be a bit of a time before they ultimately make a decision how they want to proceed.
Got you. I think you answered all our questions, Andrew. Thank you so much for coming in.
Great. Thank you both for having me.
With your case as it does go forward. We'll keep in touch with you on that. A new year means some new laws are on the books.
When we return, our special guest will tell us what's changing in New York State. These are the things you definitely need to know about, because some may help you while others may cost you money.
If you have a comment or story idea, please let us know about it. You can email us at news@news10.com. You can also find us on X, formerly known as Twitter, at WGEN. Welcome back to Empire State Weekly. The new year is here, and while we're awaiting the start of the legislative session, several new laws are set to take effect.
So many laws are set to take effect that we can't possibly cover them all here, but here are some of the highlights. Minimum wage will be increasing to $16.50 an hour on Long Island in New York City, and the rest of the state, it will be $15.50 an hour. Health insurance plans are required to cover the cost of at least 2 EpiPens per year and cap the out-of-pocket cost at $100.
State's also going to require employers to provide 20 hours of paid sick leave specifically for prenatal care. This is separate from your existing paid sick leave. Joining us now to give additional insight on some of the legislation taking effect in the new year, Morgan Hook, the managing director for SKDK. And I asked you last time, but for those who don't watch the show every week, Morgan, religiously, what is SKDK? What is it you do?
We are a public affairs PR firm, so we work in Albany, we work across New York State, sort of advocating for laws, advocating for public policies on behalf of clients and different people who hire us. We also do a lot of campaign work, and so getting people elected.
So you're plugged into all this stuff.
Yes.
New things on the books. I'll throw the first one out. Prenatal changes with moms to be 20 hours a week now for the doctor's visits. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so, this is something that is sort of near and dear to my heart. I have 3 kids. My wife pregnant 3 times, and none of these things were available to us. My youngest is 11 years old now, but New York has actually made quite a few steps in paid family leave, giving people time off when they do have a kid, either the father or the mother. And then in this particular case, it is granting up to 20 hours of paid leave to go prior to birth of a child to go to doctor's appointments. And it's kind of amazing that this is the sort of thing that wasn't on the books before, but now employers are going to be required to pay you. Basically are taking a sick day, but required to be paid so that you can go and get, routine checkups and that sort of thing. So if we're talking about laws that people are actually going to feel a change that's made from the legislature and the governor that people will actually notice in their lives, I think that this is one, certainly for pregnant women, this is one that they're actually going to see.
Yeah, and I know that I was speaking to the health commissioner, the state health commissioner, and he was saying that some women have up to 14 appointments.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of time that they could use.
Yeah, I mean, yes. Again, 3 kids in our family, and you go to the doctor a lot. You're going to the doctor towards the end. You're going to the doctor once a week. So being able to not, again, some jobs might not let you take that time for that doctor's appointment, and now they're going to be required to give you that time and make sure you don't get docked pay when you actually just have to go have a routine doctor's appointment.
Right, and it's not unlimited. It's a 20-hour cap,
Yes.
but that generally, as Jamie said, covers those appointments. Another one we looked at was congestion pricing. Finally, it's here, right?
Yes. So this is one, and again, in the spirit of, are people going to feel this? This is one that could, New Jersey is trying to stop it at the last minute, but this could start as soon as Sunday. And it's a $9 toll for a section of Lower Manhattan. You drive in, you pay a $9 toll. Now, I think at this point, a lot of us, we all have there's not like you're handing a $10 bill to a toll taker. Like, that's not a thing anymore. And so you just have the little easy pass. But for folks who have to drive into, and this is why New Jersey's fighting it so hard, because there are so many people from New Jersey who are commuting into Manhattan. And this will actually be felt quite a bit by people initially who have to pay the tolls. Now, again, the idea here is to create a funding stream to improve the subway and public transit. I think it's also, the idea is the toll serves as a way to stop people from driving into Manhattan because it is so congested with cars. And if you've driven in Manhattan anytime recently, it takes forever to get anywhere just because there are so many cars and it's so congested. So the idea here is to try and prevent people from driving in, but at the same time, there are going to be people who have no choice. And they are going to be hit with these tolls. And if you're driving into Manhattan 3, 4, 5 times a week, that's going to really start to add up after a while, which is why this has been something of a hot button political issue for the governor. She backed away from it before the November elections, restarted it, reduced, but restarted it after the November election. So I think that this is something we're going to have to be watching throughout the year, see how people react to it. Are they unhappy with it? We know subway riders are going to be happy with it. But those effects aren't going to be felt for a while because the funding has to come in and then they have to use it to actually improve transit. The first impact is going to be people paying these tolls.
Right.
And that's a $9 toll,
Yes.
correct?
There's a $9 toll, and again, it could start as soon as rush hour on Monday morning. So that people are going to be feeling that immediately.
Minimum wage, you were saying, Jamie, we did a story on this. That's also going up as well, right?
Yes, minimum wage goes up 50 cents, I think, to $16.50 in the city and $15.50. You probably know better than me. $15.50 around the rest of the state. Again, this is an impact. 50 cents might not sound like a lot per, but it adds up over a year. It can add up to $1,000, $2,000, something like that. I also think that, frankly, I know employers are going to feel the pinch here, and I think the state is doing some stuff on workers' comp, for example, to try and reduce the impact for small businesses, that sort of thing. But this is money in people's pockets, and that money typically is then immediately reinvested into the economy. So this, by and large, will be something I think that people will feel. People will be spending more money, they'll have more money to spend.
Is there any other law that you think will really impact New Yorkers this year?
Well, there are a couple that are not laws yet, but one law that actually very quickly that is they've eliminated copays for insulin. So any people who are prescribed insulin,
That's big, yeah.
that no more copays. And so that's something that actually people can feel. I'll mention 2 things that I think we should be on the watch for. The governor has proposed a rebate that would be, she's calling it an inflation rebate, and it would have to pass as part of the state budget. But that's $300 to $500 in rebate checks that people might be seeing if they pass, and I think they will. If they pass it, that would happen in the fall. Another one that is not even the state legislature, and I'm going to throw a curveball at you guys on this one. There is something that the State Department, New York State Department, is considering, and it's in a small codes committee where they're thinking about making it a mandate to have fire sprinklers, like full fire, like the kind that you might have in high-rise buildings, installed in 1- and 2-story family residences. And this could take effect in January, and any new houses that are built would require these things that cost somewhere like $30,000, $40,000 per house.
Wow, yeah.
And there is an opposition to it. Obviously, the New York State firefighters are in support of it because it's a safety thing. Home builders and real estate agents are against it because it's raising costs.
Sure.
So that's something to keep an eye on. What is the governor going to do about that? That's her State Department making a code change. It has no legislature influence, but again, it would be a law that would take effect in
effective,
2025
law, yeah.
if they move forward with it. So something to keep an eye on.
That is one to watch.
Definitely have
yeah.
to watch. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Morgan Hook. All right. Multiple state agencies gearing up for the start of the legislative session later on this month. When we come back, we'll hear the state's Inspector General on what her office will be focusing on in the new year.
If you have a comment or story idea, let us know. You can email us at news@news10.com. You can also reach out on X, formerly known as Twitter, at WTEN.
Welcome back. As this new year begins, many state agencies are taking stock of the previous year and making plans for 2025.
I caught up with Inspector General Lucy Lang on what her office will be focusing on in the new year. Take a look. Thank you so much for being here. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too, Jamie. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So for people that don't know, what does the Office of the Inspector General oversee?
We have the privilege of overseeing integrity investigations into all of the state executive agencies and authorities. So that includes the Department of Corrections, the Office of Children and Family Services, the state parks. And this past year, as you may know, was the centennial of the New York State Parks Department. So I had the good fortune to visit 50 parks across the state and see the people who are hard at work keeping the parks running for all of us. We did trainings for for many parks employees about integrity and ethics in state government. We also oversee the workers' compensation system and the welfare system. So we wear quite a number of hats related to things that are critically important to New York government.
And what would you say is your office's biggest accomplishments this year?
In 2024, we were really on the ground training New York State government employees about issues of ethics and integrity. We're really proud to have built our first ever training unit, which includes training for our staff internally, but much more importantly, training for state government across the state, from the North Country to the Western region, to the Capital Region, downstate and beyond. And it has been really exciting to be engaging with the agencies we oversee and working with them to try to prevent fraud and corruption and abuse before it begins.
And what goes into this training?
It really varies depending on the needs of a particular agency. We've tried to take a very data-driven approach to all of our work so that we are directing resources to the agencies that seem to need it most. So we look at the numbers of complaints that come in, whether they be through our hotline, through our email, or increasingly through our social media outreach. And we identify the agencies that seem to be raising the most concern for the public. Then we work with those agencies to tailor trainings to precisely the areas of concern.
And I'm sure there are a wide range of complaints, right?
Of course, things can range from time abuse to pay to play. There are all kinds of crimes and abuse that fall into the bucket of corruption or into the bucket of misuse of government resources, all of which are of concern to us at the IG's office and are part of our statutory mandate to provide training in order to prevent.
And looking ahead to this new year, what would you like to accomplish?
In 2025, I'm really excited to lean into our commitment to putting the public back in public integrity. So that's going to mean increasing engagement with members of the public to identify areas where they think that state government may not be serving them to the fullest extent of their ability.
Stick around. We'll be back with a look at the week ahead in just a bit.
If you have a comment or story idea, let us know. You can email us at news@news10.com. You can also reach out on X at WTEN.
Finally, at Empire State Weekly, as we begin this new year, we're keeping track of the important dates at the Capitol. The session officially resumes on January the 8th with a State of the State address from Governor Kathy Hochul. That will be on the 14th.
The governor is expected to lay out her priorities ahead of her running for re-election in 2026. All this comes as Congress is expected to certify the election results on Monday. We'll be sure to follow all of these important dates and bring you the latest insights.
For now, from all of us here at Empire State Weekly, I'm John Gray.
And I'm Jamie DeLine. We'll see you here next week.
And don't you forget, you can watch Empire State Weekly all over New York State. Here's the full schedule of the show on 10 TV stations across the great state of New York.